Hello and welcome to Sober Sports Talk. My name is James and today I'm just doing a little pod recording on my own just to talk about a few things that have been on my mind, and also I'm quite aware that I haven't recorded a podcast for a few weeks. So the first thing I want to talk about today, and if anybody's listening to this and you haven't listened before, thank you very much for tuning in. The basis of this podcast is to talk about three things, which is football, sobriety and mental health, which I firmly believe all three are sort of linking quite well with each other as well. So this month is October, today's October the 3rd, and for a lot of people they will be doing what I think is called Stoptober, which is a sort of an incentive to raise money for charity, I believe, but also for people to take up the challenge of not drinking for a month. And let's be honest, for a lot of people that is a big challenge. So I just wanted to talk about sort of what I experienced in the first few days, weeks, months of my sobriety, and if it helps somebody that's on that journey, starting off on that journey, especially if they're doing the challenge for this month and they get sort of sober curious, the phrase is, then it just might help somebody. And this is going to help me as well, because it'll make me think about the sort of the past and that. And it will also get me back into the podcast rhythm. So that's a good thing as well. So when I first went sober back in 2021, which seems a long time ago now, but it's a few years now. I'm approaching 4 years, so that's not of any relevance whatsoever. But I am approaching 4 years. When I first started, I had a lot of thoughts in my mind about sort of how I would cope and what I would do and how I would miss it, etc., etc. And I found personally that I didn't really miss it as much as I thought I would, really. And I mean, that's just being honest, you know. And I've thought about this a lot over the last few months, and I didn't miss it near as much as I thought I would. So I gave up in November 2021, which November is quite close to December, obviously, and it's quite close to Christmas as well, which is a busy time for the sort of social calendar. And also my birthday's in December. I got my wife's birthdays in November. I got friends' birthdays in November and December. And what I struggle with most, I think, is the sort of the thought of going out or being with people, and the sort of the pressure that would come with drinking, you know, because I used to be the person that used to pressure people to have a drink, and I regret that big time now. I can't change it, but I regret it. And I was worried that I'd go out and people would say to me, "I won't drinking, blah blah blah." But I decided very, very, very early on that I would just be honest with people and firm with people. And if people said to me, "Won't drinking," I just tell them I give it up. You know, it's not a be all and end all. People don't need me out drinking to have a good time. You know, you can have a good time on your own doing, and also I have a much better time when I'm not drinking as well. So that was my main concern, and I think it's probably a concern that a lot of people have when they do things like Stoptober, or if they're going sober and are sober curious. It's definitely a thing. And the only thing I can say to people is to set your standards right from the very start. Set your standards. Be firm when you're with people, because if you're with people who are used to drinking when you go out, then it could present a challenge, you know, and it will present a challenge, because you'll be going out. People expect you to behave the way you did when you were drinking, but you've made a decision to change, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So I think that's probably the number one thing I would say, bear in mind when you do these sort of things, is that the pressure is always going to be there. And over time, that pressure sort of changes, you know, the pressure. So now there's no pressure on me whatsoever. But now, even now, after, like I said, after nearly 4 years, I still, if I'm somewhere and I meet someone for the first time and it's in a situation where alcohol is freely available, then when I say free available, I don't mean it's free, but there's a bar or whatever. And people say to me, "Oh, you want a drink?" And I just say to them, "No, I say no, I don't drink." But it's probably a little bit easier for me now because I'm extremely comfortable with it. But if we were in the early days and you're not as comfortable with it, it would present a much greater challenge. So yeah, I think I would say be firm, be true to yourself, and be honest. And if you want to do it, you definitely can. You definitely can. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And I think as well that the other thing that I would say as well is that give it time. Because time, as I say, time is a great healer. When I first give up, I would sort of, what's the right word I'm looking for here? I would overthink things for sure. And I would overthink situations where alcohol might be involved as well. So if I was going to a party or just a venue like a pub or a restaurant, I would overanalyze it and think about it. And I mean, it's not, again, I make it sound easy, and I know it's not, but it is just a matter of being firm with yourself. So like football for me is a massive thing. I go to football once or twice a week. I go and watch Bristol City play. I go and watch non-league football, whichever. Wherever you go and watch football, there's a bar, and drink is a big part of that culture at football. Which and I always say, and it's true, each to their own. If people want to go and have a drink at a football, that's entirely up to them. And I'm not saying for 1 second you shouldn't. But for me, going to football presented a different sort of challenge in the sense that it's widely accepted that people go to football and have a drink, and all that comes with that. But again, I was firm with it, and I think that the one thing I would say is when you give it time, you get comfortable with it. People get comfortable with you not being the person that you were, which is a massive thing when you think about it. I'm not the person that I was 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not the person I was 10 years ago. I am the person that I am today, and I'm grateful for that. And I think I'm a much better version of myself now than what I was 10 years ago. And I mean, I turned 40. I turned 40 in December, and I was thinking about it the other day when I turned 30 10 years ago. Great maths there, I know what you're thinking. When I turned 30 10 years ago, we went to, about this time it was, we went to a weekend away. Me and my wife and a group of us with our friends went away, and my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, well, our only daughter, but our first child at the time. And we went to Edinburgh. I had a really good weekend. But I was drinking then. Like I said, this was 10 years ago. And we went, she was pregnant. We went out, me and my mates went out, and the girls stayed in and we're drinking back at the thing. Obviously, my wife wasn't drinking because she was pregnant. Anyway, we went out and we went to the shops to get some shopping, and then we went to a bar on the way back for a quick pint, and that pint turned into, I don't know, but it wasn't a quick pint. We were in there a lot longer than what we should have been. And then when we got back, my wife said to me, "Oh, where you been?" I said, and we jokingly said there was a big queue at the supermarket. I mean, it would have had to have been the biggest queue in the world to have been in the queue for as long as what we were in the pub for. But then, we made a joke of it because that's what I always do, try and make a joke out of everything, really. But when I look back on it now, those sort of behaviours were bad, really, because I said to her that I was going to pop out and get some food. She was sat there with her friends. She went on her own, she was with her friends, and she was hungry, and she was pregnant as well. And I think when I look back now, things like that, I think, well, that was selfish, But there's no way I would do that now. You know what I mean? It is like I said, I'm a completely different person than I was 4 or 5, 10 years ago. And I'm a much more content person now than what I was. I don't need I don't need alcohol. I don't want alcohol. I don't miss it. I don't miss the hangovers. I don't miss regretting, like, what have I done? That sort of feeling when you wake up in the morning. And I don't regret wasting money on alcohol. I always say, when I drank, I had a good time, and I did have a good time. There's no two ways about it. But there's no way in a million years I would go back to that. No way. And I think you just get a sense of contentment when you sort of give up alcohol. That's just my thoughts. Millions of people would disagree with me, but that's just the way I see it. And if you are starting off on your sober journey, just bear it in mind that it does take time. One day at a time is the most commonly used saying for that sort of thing. But it's true. It is one day at a time. And I'm sober today, and by the everything that I got in me, I'll be sober tomorrow as well. And I'm off to football tomorrow. So yeah, but I kind of hope that makes sense, because in my head what I want to say sometimes doesn't come out the way that I want it to. But yeah, just if you're on the start of the sober journey, just look after yourself, really, I suppose. Be true to yourself, be firm with people. If you're in a situation where drink is there, just say no, not drinking, end of, and then have a soft drink, water, whatever, and give it time, because hopefully you'll realise that when you have a night out and you wake up in the morning and you're fresh and you feel good, and you've had a nice time the night before, remember everything you've done, what a difference it makes. What a difference. So yeah, I think that's what I really wanted to say today. This isn't going to be a regular thing that I'm doing, literally just doing this to get myself sort of back into the podcast mindset. And I know some of you have probably missed my voice, so if you have, then I do question why. But no, I mean, and also look, have a good weekend. It's Friday today. I'm off to watch Bristol City tomorrow. Really looking forward to that. And then Sunday, got family stuff. My daughter's got a competition. My little boy's got a birthday party. So it's nice stuff. Nice stuff to look forward to. And it'll all be done with a sober, clear frame of mind as well, which is amazing. And I look forward to everything that the weekend brings. So yeah, just look after yourselves. I will be back. I'm planning, I always say this, I know, but I'm planning on starting up the podcast again next week. Got a couple of people who are interested in coming on. We're just trying to get timings, etc. So I'm not making any promises whatsoever. But hopefully there'll be a new episode out next week, which should be sort of a full episode as such. But thanks for listening. Take care, everybody. Have a good weekend, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care.